want to talk about gun control in this moment that's happening right now after the tragedy at Parkland. Do you feel that there is actual pressure on your colleagues in the Senate? Are these children actually putting enough pressure on them that change might happen here?
I really do. I was at that march, and it is something I'm never going to forget. For years, as a former prosecutor, we've worked with law enforcement to try to get some sensible gun legislation in for safety's sake. We have then moved on. That didn't work. And then the moms after Sandy Hook, I remember them sitting in my office telling the stories of sitting in that fire station, waiting as one by one these kids would come in to be reunited with their parents. And after a while, those moms knew they were never going to see their little kid again. Hearing that story and thinking they couldn't get the legislation passed with those stories. And then finally, Congress keeps trying. We put forward bills like I have on domestic abuse, bills on background checks. And finally, we are all going to be bested by a bunch of 16-year-olds. So I am really psyched about that.
I'm glad you're psyched.
I think that when a kid looks at their parent or the grandparent, even in my state where we have a proud hunting tradition, and they say, look, hunting's fine, but we don't understand why we can't go to school and be safe. And it's real hard to say no to those kids.
So I want to talk, because you do come from a rural state that has a very robust hunting community, and NRA members who want more gun legislation. And I always felt this moment needs, I think it's very fair to have issue with NRA leadership. I think that there are NRA members who have that membership for a different reason. They believe in having a hunting rifle or maybe even, a handgun in the home. Are there NRA members that are on or hold your position on assault weapons and on background checks? And are they going to be vocal in this movement that's happening?
I mean, the polls show that the majority of gun owners want to see background checks. You have the vast majority of Americans that want to see better background checks. You had the President of the United States at a meeting where I sat right across from him that said he wanted to see background checks.
But did you think that he meant it when he said it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay, good, yeah.
Okay, so there are just so many people that want to see these sensible gun legislation. So I think it's got to happen. But right now, the NRA does have a sway over so many of my colleagues. It's about, of course, I think, very false premise that's put out there that they're going to just take their guns away when, in fact, there's no legislation that's proposed to do that. And then secondly, the money. And it's out there, and it's money, dark money from the outside.
Now, you were at that meeting with the president.
Yes.
That was very surreal to watch because you don't usually see cameras in those meetings where you have members of both parties talking to the president very openly about different gun legislation. He seemed very agreeable to a lot that was coming from the left of that issue. He seemed pro-background checks. He even criticized his colleagues and said that they were afraid of the NRA. And that they didn't have to be afraid of the NRA because he wasn't beholden to the NRA. That went away pretty quickly. In that room, did your colleagues know that this was show and that nothing was being said would have any permanence?
Well, you want to hope so much for those kids and those moms I just described. So you want to believe, and he was actually listening. He wasn't tweeting anytime during the meeting. And he looked right across and he said, not one, not 3 times, but 9 times, I counted, that he wanted to see universal background checks. And he said he endorsed my bill when I explained to him that 6,000 women have been killed by their partners with guns in an 11-year period. And I said that's more than we've lost of our brave soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said, include Amy's piece in there. And so the problem was we then went on and he got behind 2 good bills, but very narrow things to improve background checks and for safe schools. He did that, and that's all they've done. And he met with the NRA the next night, and then we never heard anything again about universal background checks or anything again about the domestic violence bill. And so we are not going to give up, and certainly those kids aren't going to let us give up.
I am happy to hear that. You've been obviously doing this for a while now. You've had some success. Not the case. What was your first day like? What was your first day as a senator like?
Oh, well, my first day, I will not forget. I came from a little different background than some of the other senators and drove up there in my Saturn And we have our first fancy lunch, no longer made, I know. We have our first fancy lunch, and there we are in the LBJ room, this major portrait of Lyndon Johnson above us. And I go over and I grab a salad and a cup of soup. I bring it back, fancy place, ready to dive in. And all of a sudden, Patty Murray, the only woman at the table besides myself, jumps up, runs around, grabs my arm, and says, "Amy, you just took the entire bowl of Thousand Island dressing and you're about to eat it." And I said, "That's what we do in Minnesota. We eat the Thousand Island dressing." But what I learned that day is, and I still try to keep it as my mantra, never forget where you came from, no matter what happens in that place. And if you want to go into politics, which we want more women and younger people to do, you're going to confront obstacles, you're going to have embarrassing moments, but just don't give up.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Senator Amy Klobuchar, everybody.